this feeling is palpable. It's something that we, each and every one of us, feel when we see these videos, and it can cause us agony. How do you even get through the day? I mean, in the work I do, there's teachers that are struggling to come to teach their Arabic classes in our institute. There's staff members that feel like they need to take time off. It's really hitting a boiling point when people are being affected in their mental health, their spiritual, emotional health. So I wanted to address a little bit of that. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a mental health specialist, I don't have any of that, but I just wanted to reflect on the Quran, to see what inspiration potentially we can get from the words of the Quran. Again, I was going to speak about words, and I'm going to go back to words in some ways, but focusing on what's real and what's impactful for the people right now. Because we cannot go past this khutbah today without addressing this issue, and for us, it has to be center stage in our minds. So first of all, how do we deal with this? Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this pain and suffering? How can we be so helpless? I'd like to propose an argument that each and every one of us, we have a collective responsibility, yes. And there's masajid, there's organizers, there's institutes that we can donate to, we can rally, we can get up and do something, we can make our voices heard, we can get involved politically, all that's there. But each and every one of us, in this room and outside, we each have an individual, unique responsibility and a unique set of talents. And if we can unlock that, that's where there's real magic and there's real impact that we can have. And subhanAllah, from that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He had Musa alayhi salam step up and handle a task, right? He had very little to work with. He just had his staff. And we'll look at the story of Musa alayhi salam and see how that staff, that's all he had, a very simple possession. But it changed the course of events of society. It was the means of the miracles that happened. It was what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used. So each and every one of us, we each have our own staff. We have our own talents and our own skill sets, and we need to deploy those to the maximum, not just for Palestine, but definitely for Palestine, but any injustice in the world, in the broader society, and right in our own communities, in our own houses, in our own lives, inshallah. So I'd like to step back, and there's a Professor Jeffrey Lang. He's actually from Kansas City, the city that my wife grew up in. And he's a professor of mathematics, so like me, he had more of a science and math background growing up, but he became Muslim, and he's asking this question, and he wrote this book that I read when I was in high school. Even angels ask. Even angels ask. Because we can ask these questions, why is there such evil in this world? Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's tahir, who's fawqa kulli shay, he's completely in power, how would he allow such tragedies and such pain to occur? So the angels, before our creation, asked this question when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, إِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, that Allah said to the angels, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. And this word is fantastic, it's amazing. That Allah says, I'm going to place on earth a Khalifa. Khalifa is from the word khalf, to come behind, to be behind. So there's intrinsically a level of humility in there. And if you look at the story, everyone knows the story of Adam al-Islam being created and Iblis not bowing down, and he was arrogant. Khalifa has this humility, but responsibility mixed in together. And so our job on this earth, مَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that Allah did not create man or jinn except to worship. But then He says He created us as Khalifa. That's not just worshiping. And angels were worshiping. Why was there a need for man to be created? We'll have to look at that a little bit more closely to understand what true worship is. It's not just the worship we do in the masjid. It's not just what we do in private. It's also the role we have publicly. It's the holistic role of the community to be a Khalifa. And we can look at the Prophet ﷺ perfectly embodied all aspects of this. He didn't stay in the cave of Hira. He came out and he brought goodness and brought justice to society, and we have that to emulate. This is amazing. The angels immediately, the first thing on their mind was, will you create these people that will create evil in this world and will spill blood? Allahu Alam, what the angels were thinking of at that time. Allahu Alam, if they knew Palestine would be in tears, would be in blood, if they would see how many times it was conquered and destroyed. And when the Crusaders came in between 1000 and 1100 AD, they said there were streams of blood in Palestine. They killed every Muslim. They held out in Quds and they killed them. This has happened before. The Mongols came, they ransacked Baghdad. They ransacked. The Muslim Ummah is resilient. The Muslim Ummah is resilient because we have the Quran, that when Palestine was reconquered by Salahuddin, he did not shed that blood. And I watched this documentary on PBS. I encourage all of us to become educated on this issue. And you can see clear as day how Muslims, we have our mistakes, our rulers have had their mistakes, and Muslims are not flawless. But if you compare to Christian rule and Jewish rule of Palestine specifically to Muslim rule, it's a historical fact that Muslims allowed others to flourish, allowed others to live. They did not have massacres to that level in which you can see Salahuddin as a perfect example. And this is documented in movies and books on all sides. It's clear as day. So we have a high tradition that we have to live up to, and no one can bring us down. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala vouched for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala vouched for us. He says, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ. So angel said, and we worship you, and we say Subhanallah, وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And this is amazing. The word Quds is used here. The angels are using the word Quds. And they say that we honor you, and we sanctify you, and we make you holy. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew something about us. There was some hope from the beginning, whereas the angels were in despair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought a statement that He is the Lord. He created us for a purpose. He created us for a reason, and He knows why we are not just boiling down to those who fight and shed blood and corruption in the earth. There is another side to the story. So subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines us by lightness, by light, and not by dark. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the good that's in our community, and we must live up to that and step up to that. So then, this problem of evil, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what was his argument after that? وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately shows and demonstrates to the angels why what they're saying is false. And that is, He teaches Adam. So there's a lesson here that education is a key part. Education is not something passive. It's not something that makes us sit down and become passive and not do anything. It should spur action. Just like words are not passive. Words can spur action. They can spur movements. They can spur and inspire people. They can give us hope. They can also heal. And may there be healing today in looking at the Quran and understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of what anyone else does, regardless of the odds against us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully in charge. And he ends قال سبحانك. The angel said, سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. Now we do not have any knowledge except what you teach us. They go back into the state of humility, just like Adam when he was tempted in the garden and he fell. He returned to Allah with words, just like the angels returned, and they corrected their action with words. We were created with words, kun fayakun, that we were disobeyed because of words that Shaitan whispers in us, and we turn back to Allah with words. We enter Islam with words, La ilaha illallah. We exit this world, inshallah, on our tongues, La ilaha illallah, and we enter Jannah, and we hear Qilan, Salaman, Salama, Qilan. We hear that, Salaman, Salama, peace. And وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And we end with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. These are all words, and these are powerful, and the story of man is words. And we have words that are revealed to us, which we gain inspiration for. So I wanted to just touch on this amazing story of Musa alayhi salam. You know Musa alayhi salam's story